And we're live on Amazon. Welcome to the show, Debra. You've been, I've interviewed you on my other show, and you are both an author and a goal-setting expert. So very briefly, talk about what you do in a few sentences, and then we'll talk about your book choices.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. I am the goal girl, as it were. I've been called it by other people, so I always feel it's great to repeat what when people get. Someone once introduced me as the goal whisperer. I think that's my favorite. I am a author, goal strategist, podcaster. I am on a mission to change goal culture in and out of the workplace. A lot of people think of the word goal as a 4-letter word, and it is, but they think it's the bad kind. I know it's the good kind. So I lead workshops, I do consulting. I'm all about helping people figure out what they want and how to get it. And the best way to do it is by setting the foundation for your goals and build toward the life that you want.
Okay, shall we talk about the first book then? Which
Yes.
your book, your new book, 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting by Debra Eckerling. And I kind of get the feeling from the 52 that this is maybe related to a year. Is that a good assessment?
It is a good assessment, except another secret is there are actually 60 secrets in the book. So each chapter has a bonus secret, and then Guy Kawasaki wrote the afterword, which is another one. So the book is divided into 7 sections. How I met, and I'm pretty proud of how I was able to categorize them, because what I did is I reached out to achievers, people who are either friends or people I interviewed, or introductions from people I've interviewed. And I interviewed people in business, technology, creative areas, food, entertainment, and asked them, what is your secret for setting goals and getting goals? And then I kind of divided and conquered to put them in the 7 sections of the book. And one of the things that we did with the launch is that we offered bonus secrets for pre-ordering. And I said, well, we're getting bonus secrets. We need to put them in the book as well. So that's why it ended up at 60. And yes, 52 is to evoke the feeling of a year. You could do one of these a week, or and get through 4 and then do a bonus one yourself. But the whole idea of the book is to use it as a menu for inspiration with whatever area you need assistance in, whether it's focus or productivity, networking, well-being. So you can either go to the area you need, or you could just pick a random page and try that one that day. That it's all about looking at what's in the book, seeing what resonates with you, and seeing which ones you want to take out for a test drive.
Okay, and who would you say is the ideal person to buy this book? Like, who would gain the most from reading and buying?
I know I'm not supposed to say everyone. I use the term busy professionals.
Yeah.
So if you are at a point in your career where you're ready to level up and you're a little stuck, it's perfect. If you're at a crossroads and you're thinking, okay, maybe I need to change my career, maybe I need to look into something new for myself, then, start with the focus chapter, and maybe that'll help you really hone in on what you want to do next. The whole idea with so I created something called the DEB method, which is my system for goal setting simplified. And it's really all about creating the foundation for your goals. You can't get what you want unless you know what that is, which is why focus is the first chapter, because it's like, okay, what do I want for my life? And then you can build it. And then the other thing, I'm in Los Angeles, and a lot of people are still and will be dealing with the repercussions from the fires for a while. No matter what corner of the world you are in, there's a natural or unnatural disaster. And sometimes what you need to do is, okay, take a breath. And then when you're ready to move forward, then you pick up my book and say, okay, what do I need to do to reset me and start moving forward?
Yeah, I'm guessing certainly if you've been affected by fires, and goals are probably something useful for you at the moment. Okay, shall we move on to the next book? And I know you've got a bit of a theme here in the
I do have a
books.
theme.
The books are by people you may have interviewed. So, Reach by Arthur Smith is the first book.
The theme of the people who I've mentioned in book chat, they are all people who have a secret that they shared in 52 Secrets. And for my book, most of them, I would say, were Zoom interviews that I did, and I distilled the information. A few of them came via email because just of scheduling. And Arthur Smith, who is, I guess we call him a pioneer in nonfiction television. I don't think he likes reality TV, but he brought Gordon Ramsay to the U.S. for Hell's Kitchen. That's the thing that I think most people associate with him, but he has done hundreds of nonfiction, aka reality TV. And I interviewed him for my Taste Buds with Them podcast because Hell's Kitchen food. I love that show because I'm able to stretch the definition of who is a foodie. But the message of the book is you don't get where you want unless you reach. And the book is his journey, his life in television. And I wrote to him, his people, whichever term you want to use, because I really wanted to include him in this book. And if I'm remembering correctly, Arthur's the first person in the section on action. So you need to always ask for that thing that's beyond what you think you're going to get. If you don't reach, you're just going to be living that, I don't want to say a humdrum life, because some people they've gotten to a pace where they're very happy. But if you're the type of person who wants a little more and a little more, it's a inspirational book, also based in action.
Yeah.
And he's a nice guy too, which is always... Actually, I like to think everybody in the book, and like I said, they're all friends or friends of friends or whatever. They're all people that have the same spirit of we want to share information to help other people. And this book is his journey that he wanted to share to help other people. And then if you love TV, I mean, obviously, you need to read that.
Well, I'm going to try something here. And it worked today. We got a comment from Cookbook Divas saying hello from a book lover in Seattle. And I think actually she does a show talking about cookbooks. So she'll probably like today's show because we've got about 5 cookbooks to talk about later on. So that's good to see.
That's awesome.
Okay, let's go on to the next book, which is 101 Ways to Rock LinkedIn by Vivica von Rosen and Dana Steele even. So, why did you pick this book? Presumably, this is another secret?
Okay, so Vivica, who was huge in the LinkedIn world for years, in the last year and a half, she not even reinvented herself, more like refocused her efforts. Her new company is Beyond the Dream Board, and where she's helping most career executives, I think I said it right, figure out their next thing.
Yeah.
And it also ties into this. There's a whole idea of there's the life you have and the life you want, and the life you want is attainable. You just need to gift yourself the time to do it. And so Vivica and I have been friends for, probably 10 years or so. And I met her through when I was an editor at Social Media Examiner. And Dana Steele, who is a Radio Hall of Famer. She is an activist. She's an author, playwright. She is like all sorts of amazing things. Dana did this book series on 101 Ways to Rock because DJ rock background, and so many to choose from. But of course, I picked the one that she and Vivica did together. And this is, even though things have changed a lot on LinkedIn over the years, it's just an easy way when I always say if you're on one social media platform, you need to be on LinkedIn, because when you meet people, you look them up, they're going to look you up. So you want to have that professional aura, not just the professional aura, but really the aura of who you want to present to the world. right? You may work in a business, but you're working on your thought leadership. You need to make sure that is incorporated into your LinkedIn. Or even if you're at a company and looking for a new job, you need to look at LinkedIn as the resource it is, because I believe, and I've been on LinkedIn probably 20 years, because 20 years ago I read a book and said, if you're reading this book, stop everything and join LinkedIn, and I did.
Yeah.
It's not a resume anymore. Some people still use it that way, but when you use LinkedIn to promote yourself as the expert you are, even if you are like an expert in training or an on the road to, you need to present that. And these are just really simple things that you can do to put your best foot forward on your LinkedIn and present the you that you want out to the business universe. If you are only on one platform, you need to be on LinkedIn, because you need to find people and people need to find you.
Yeah. Okay, shall we go on to the next book?
Okay.
Which is Listful Living by Paula Rizzo.
So Paula and I are like kindred in that I love the whole brainstorming aspects of everything. Paula is a media trainer who is a TV producer for years.
Yeah.
And Listful is also with my publisher, Mango. And Paula and I had the pleasure of doing a couple book chats together where we did events together. And all of I'm not going to say we're like fraternal twins born in, from different people, different upbringing, but you need your lists. Everything that you want to do that is out there. I just had this conversation yesterday. People like to think they can keep everything in their head.
Yeah.
And I once said, we can't keep things organized. And someone said, well, I can. And I'm like, great. If you can do it, that's wonderful for you. But most people cannot keep all that information in their head. When you make lists, it is a way to keep yourself organized and keep the things that you need to do top of mind. And Paula just took everything to the next level. In her book, Listful Living, it is all about the lists and using lists to improve yourself personally, professionally, the whole shebang.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other advantage of lists is obviously they're shareable. When at the moment there isn't like brain reading technology that people can read what you thought you were going to do if something happened. If there's a list, then people can follow through on that.
Yes. So if you love lists, if you love writing things out, if you want to be organized, obviously you want to read her tip, which, by the way, spoiler alert, has to do with lists. But grab a copy of Listful Living by Paula Rizzo to take your listing to the next level.
Okay, let's on to the next book, which is Selling from the Heart by Larry Levine. We will get onto the cookbook soon if anybody's waiting for that.
Okay, now I have to, before I talk about the book, which is awesome. And, it goes back to the theme we're talking about before. When you approach whatever you're doing with the giving spirit, you're going to get a lot further than if you're a buy my stuff person. Buy my stuff doesn't work, because we all have other things. I mentioned before that everybody in the book is someone I know or an intro. And I was talking to Bryn Tillman, who I met through Vivica von Rosen, because I always have to, do the little thread. And she gave me a list of people to interview for the book, including Larry Levine. And then I said to Bryn, I really want to have Guy Kawasaki in the book. Do you have any ideas? And she said, Larry Levine just interviewed him. So after you do the interview with Larry, you can ask him. And Larry gave me the contact information. I think I heard back within the day that he was interested in being interviewed for the book. So it is the power of networking. And we can jump back to LinkedIn for a second. The more people you know, the more people you know, the more avenues you need. And Larry, who was on my Gold Chat right after I met him, I'm like, oh, this topic's perfect. Let's get to know each other better. Larry and he just released another book as well. It's selling in a post-trust world, I believe. I don't want to mangle the title, but he is all about bringing authenticity and heart to sales. And you know what the thing about authenticity is? It's another one of those words like goals that people think of as a throwaway. If you say you need to be authentic, then you're not authentic. Well, but what about the people who are actually authentic? You need to bring your heart and soul. And I love how the book starts with Larry's telling his story about how he got into sales because he thought he wanted another path, and I'm not going to spoiler it too much, and it didn't work out, and he had to figure out what was next. And it was, well, if you get into sales, then it'll set you up for other things, but Larry had to do things his own way. And this is what he learned from all of his years in distilling it. So, and the other part, I'll just say, whatever you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a consultant, an author, you're selling. So this is a book that everybody needs to be reading.
I mean, the funny thing about sales is that it's a bit like marketing. The very best salespeople and the very best marketers, you don't notice they're doing it. Like the best salespeople, you're like, oh, I've just bought their product, and it's like, well, how did that happen? It's the bad salespeople and the bad marketers who give everybody the bad reputation. It's the person who says, buy my book or do this, and it's because they don't know what they're doing. So I think learning sales always works really well.
And the other part of it as well is the people that you meet, and so there's a networking chapter and a communications chapter in 52 Secrets. So the people that you meet, they're not necessarily your client. Yeah. They're not necessarily your consumer, but everybody knows people. And the bigger your network, it might be, oh, well, you're not my client, but, so-and-so has a podcast. Maybe you need to talk to their community, or, oh, I'm friends with this person, you need to connect with them. So you don't know. When you make a genuine connection with anybody on any sort of, you find your commonalities, you develop rapport, then see what happens. I mean, you and we met like 10 years ago, and you and I go years without even seeing each other. I mean, you're also on the other side, across the pond, as they say. Yeah. But every few years, we'll reconnect, we'll have a conversation, we'll interview each other. Still need to get you on Goal Chat. But it doesn't matter. When someone becomes your community, they are your community, and they are there forever.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, and being remembered for something. So if somebody says, oh, I need to talk to a goal-setting expert, I might, well, hopefully I'll remember you. And then it's
I hope so too.
And that's the kind of way, even though I might not be interested in goal-setting myself, I probably am, to be honest, but I'm not quite there yet. But that's the point you're making. It's like being the person who's known as the goal-setting person. You can talk to people who have no interest in learning about goal-setting, but they will remember you as that person when somebody asks them for a recommendation. And that works so well. So here we go. Oh, we're on to the cookbooks.
Yes.
Okay. So you all but the last book now are all cookbooks, and this goes to your kind of food writer side, as well as being the goal whisperer. You're also you're also a food writer and stuff like that, aren't you, as well?
Yes, I am a former non-cook turned food writer and food podcaster. Yeah. And Susan Feniger, she's relatively well known around Southern California. I don't know how, in probably in the Southwest. Got a bunch of restaurants, but she's also at half of the Two Hot Tamales with Mary Milliken in a ton of ventures. And she's also been very active in buyer relief. Yeah. Efforts in feeding people in World Central Kitchen, which is amazing. So I met Susan Feniger and her partner, Liz Lockman. Liz is a filmmaker, and she did a documentary called Susan Feniger's Fort, which chronicled Susan's opening a restaurant called The Street in Los Angeles. It was open for several years, but during the pandemic, when we were all trying to figure out what we're going to do, Liz took the material and created this wonderful documentary, which is not just about Susan's rise, but there's so much on the rise of the woman chef and in food and pop culture and TV. So absolutely amazing. So that's where I met Susan and Liz in that episode of Taste Buds with Deb, won an LA Press Award for Best Podcast. And so street food, one of many of our cookbooks, as the recipes like from the street. So Susan is a huge fan of travel. She got her background in a French kitchen and then traveled to France, which led her to Mexico, which led her to India. So, and she's just a huge fan of what you can see in her work of making food and flavors accessible. And if you want to try this at home, I would recommend any of her cookbooks, but I had to pick one, so I picked street food.
So is it, I mean, the title, she had a restaurant called The Street.
Right.
Is it actually street food, or is it just like a play on words?
No, it is street food.
Yeah.
And so spiced millet puffs. So when I do my Taste Buds with Deb episodes, I always include a recipe. So spiced millet puffs is the one that we used when I did the Taste Buds on Forked. And that's just I think the point of the spiced millet puffs is you get the sweet and the salty and the crunchy all in one. So these are just fun, accessible foods. Tacos, I think, are probably the most known of these street foods, of course, but especially with I don't want to say the uptick in food trucks, because I feel like food trucks have been big for a while, but maybe 10 years ago, they were just starting out. But and I actually just interviewed Susan again. Are you seeing a theme? I meet people, I like them, I interview them over.
Yeah.
Susan and Liz also in the book. And I just interviewed Susan for something called Third Act Magazine. And she was talking about, it's great when you travel, you want to not just go to like the places people talk about, but you want to ask the locals, where do you eat? And I think the essence of street food is foods that real people eat in their cultures that they want to be sharing.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we go on to the next cookbook, which is Katie Chin's Global Family Cookbook by Katie Chin. I've got a few, all for by the same thing, but yeah. So why did you pick this book?
Well, I picked this book because Katie Chin is awesome. And Katie has released a whole bunch of cookbooks, and this one in particular, because it's not just her recipes, but she's also like sourced out to get other recipes to put in the cookbook. Katie Chin's husband is Jewish, and they're also raising their kids both the Chinese and Jewish roots. So I was able to like sneak in a Taste Buds with Deb with her. It's on the Jewish Journal Podcast Network, so I've got certain parameters, but I also like to like cheat them.
Yeah.
And I met Katie because someone on a different episode was talking about how Katie Chin's mother, who is a world-renowned restaurateur, catered his kosher bar mitzvah because they went and they cooked for him. And so Katie grew up in the restaurant atmosphere and, of course, ran screaming from it, moved to LA, became a TV marketing exec where she worked for many years. And then she was having a dinner party and realized she forgot how to cook. And she called her mother, who jumped on the plane with, I don't know if it was frozen chicken or frozen shrimp, and flew cross country, cooked for her and let her take the credit. And it just re-inspired that love of cooking with her. And she quit her job, left her husband. She's got a new one now with the kids, and redid her life. And she and her mother had a show together for a while. They did cookbooks together. And I feel like, and again, she had a bunch, but this one is really the essence of the family recipe, so this is chosen because Katie's got so much heart, and again, everybody who I mentioned does, and I just felt like if you're looking to play with some really great Asian recipes, you really need to be looking at this cookbook.
On to the next cookbook, which is Pastabilities. I like that title. The Ultimate Step-by-Step Pasta Cookbook by Jeffrey Eisner. So, why'd you pick this one?
I became a cook because of the Instant Pot. And I had bought an Instant Pot for my mother for Mother's Day. This was almost 8 years ago now. And she took one look at it and said, because it's got all the buttons and the whatever. It's like an electronic all-in-one cooker. And she took one look at it and said, is learning to use it, is cooking with it part of my present? And I said, sure. And I Googled, I found some videos, and I found Jeffrey Eisner's site, which was pressureluckcooking.com. So his first 4 cookbooks are Instant Pot cookbooks, and this new one is just his love of pasta. But I chose this because if you have any desire to either dip your toe in or jump in to Instant Pot cooking, and there are some Instant Pot recipes in this cookbook as well, you need to be following Pressure Luck Cooking.
Yeah.
And this for me was, and I mean, who does not love pasta?
Yeah. So this is not entirely Instapot pressure cooker like.
No, this is pastas from everywhere.
Yeah.
It is, if you buy one all pasta cookbook, this is the pasta cookbook that you need.
Yeah.
The other reason why I had to mention him is so I have been trying to get him on Taste Buds since I started the show about almost exactly 2 years ago. And then last summer, I got an email from the publicist that he had a new book coming out. And I jumped and I said, great, I want to interview Jeffrey. And it was at the time I was finishing the manuscript for 52 Secrets. And I said, I just kind of threw it out there. Would he also be interested in doing an interview for my new book? And we were able to make that happen. He was one of the last ones that I did when I was doing interviews at the end. He's actually, I think, the reason why my deadline got pushed from August 1 to August 15th, because I interviewed him, I think, on July 31st. And my publisher's like, Deb, are you nuts? And I'm like, yes, of course I am. I love this book and I want to get the best people in there. But he's another example of someone. He was a video producer behind the scenes, and it was not fulfilling for him. So he would go to the grocery at the end of his long day and he would cook to feel better. And on a whim, he's like, you know what if I video my stuff and put it out there? And his mac and cheese, I do a modified recipe, but his mac and cheese was the first actual dish that I cooked in my Instant Pot.
And presumably it turned out well.
Well, yes, it has. And actually, he has changed the recipe as he put it online. But so years ago, like at the beginning of me wanting to cook, I said one of my goals was to cook without a recipe. Yeah. And then my mother reminded me that I had to learn how to cook with a recipe before you learn to cook without one. And I think his mac and cheese was probably the first one that I adapted because a lot of people like super cheesy. I like it. I don't like to feel like I'm trying to say this in a nice way. I like enough cheese so I'm tasting the cheese, but I don't want it's so cheesy that I feel like there's cheese running through my veins rather than blood.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but one thing that he does that I do all the time now is I never put mustard in my mac and cheese until I got his recipe, and it really up levels the flavor. It's so easy. It's 6 minutes in the Instant Pot. So maybe it takes 5-10 minutes to come to pressure.
Yeah.
The other reason I love the Instant Pot, as long as we're on this particular tangent, is you could like put ingredients together and set it and then go do something. You can accomplish something off of your to-do list and you are rewarded with food. I mean, is that not the best reason to cook? I think so.
Okay. Should we go on to the next book, which... it's still on the cookbook.
I think we've got two more.
Yeah, Seasons Around the Table, the effortless entertaining with floral tablescapes and seasonal recipes by Jessie-Sierra Ross. So, why'd you pick this book?
I picked this book in part because Jessie-Sierra was the last person that I interviewed for 52 Secrets. It was at that number where it was over 50 and we had these bonus tips, and we decided we were going to do one per chapter, so I needed to put two more in. And I had interviewed Jessie-Sierra for Gold Chat, and then for Taste Buds. And then I had her on Gold Chat, and like 2 days later, I needed more people. And I'm like, she's got a great story. She was a prima ballerina as a child. And then when she became a mom, she decided, okay, I need to do my next thing. So she's a food photographer, recipe developer, media personality. She has all these things. And I love how she reinvented herself, but she really loves all the things. For her, it's not just about the cooking. It's about the tablescapes, making everything pretty. It's growing fresh vegetables and herbs and all the different things. It's seasonal in the book as well. So you are divided rather by season. So you see the different items of the seasons that you can incorporate into your cooking. It's like a really beautiful book. You almost don't want to open it to cook because you're afraid you're going to get I guess the pasta stains are for the last one, but you know what I mean? It is as beautiful as it is user-friendly. And I think the love that she poured onto it, but I love her backstory as well.
Okay, should we go on to the next one? There are two more, I think, which is The Raging Skillet, the true life story of Chef Rossi by Rossi. It's down as Rossi as your...
It's Rossi. She has one name like Madonna and Cher. And so she's got two memoirs. It's The Raging Skillet, and her new one is called Punk Rock Queen of the Jews. And they call her the anti-caterer because she likes to do things a lot differently. And she's very big on finger food. So this is like part memoir, but part cookbook. So you've got to love. When I read fiction, it's usually food mysteries because I did this before I started cooking because I love books that are activity books, and is a cookbook not like the ultimate activity book? And Rossi she's got a podcast. She's just amazing. So if you are a rebel and you want that rebel story, definitely you want to pick up The Raging Skillet. If you are someone who, I guess the term we use is marginalized, and you feel like you don't belong, you want to read Punk Rock Queen of the Jews because she grew up in a very religious area. She was sent to a very religious community, and she's also got Southern roots in there as well. And she talks about what it takes to fit in and why standing out is really the best way to do it. And her tip, I will spoil in the book, her secret is be able to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
So she talks about, you need to be as authentic you as you are. And she said that she's gotten emails from people who are just lonely and they're like, I read this book and I don't feel alone anymore. So I picked the books of Rossi more because of, well, actually, I picked all these books because of who they are. But if you are someone who feels a little different, who wants someone who gets you, or as you're reading it, you're thinking, I feel seen, then you need to be reading her books.
And let's go into the final cookbook, which is Eitan Eats the World, New Comfort Classics to Cook Right Now by Eitan Bernath. And I've probably mispronounced his or her name.
It's a he, Eitan.
Okay.
Eitan is a 22 or 23 or 24 at this point. He's a young 20-something celebrity chef. He was on the kids edition of Chopped when he was 12. And that, I mean, you don't think about launching your career at the age of 12, but that's exactly what he did. He is the culinary consultant at Drew Barrymore. He travels around the world trying food, talking to people about food. He just did a series on, I think it was Eitan Eats Mexico, a series exploring kosher kitchens in Mexico that he did. I believe it was it had to have been last summer because he is, again, also in the book. And he's just a really nice, enthusiastic person. And you can go to, I believe he's at Eitan anywhere, and you can go to his Instagram or I believe his TikTok as well, if you want like a shot in the arm of trying something different. I was watching the other day, he was like air frying everything. Like, I think there might have been some peeps in there. Either that or I'm mixing up my food, but he just likes to have fun with the things that he's cooking, and it comes through in the cookbook, and it also comes through in the videos that he does.
Okay, right. I think the next book is not a cookbook, and I think it's your book, your Goal Guide.
It is. It is my book baby that came out January 2020. So 6 weeks before the world had changed by circumstance, out came my book to help people embrace change by choice or by circumstance. And what do you want to know about it?
Well, for an Amazon review, because I take the little clips as much as well to upload them onto Amazon. So, why did you write the book, and why should people buy the book?
Well, I wrote the book because you can't get what you want unless you know what that is. And so the first half of your goal guide goes through the DEB method, which is my system for goal setting simplified. It's determine your mission, explore your options, brainstorm your path. And it's got examples and exercises, really asking the reader to gift themselves the time to go through the steps to figure out what is next for them so they create that life that they want. The second half of the book is strategies for success. And it's got a road trip theme. So the full title is Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals. And I was able to bucket the types of goals into 4 categories. So it's starter, build a business, career path, become a known thought leader, achieve work-life balance. And usually you have at least one, but more than one of those, because almost everybody wants that balance piece in addition to building their career, building a business. And then I think we were talking about this when we were on the LinkedIn book, is you need some element of thought leadership, expertise, no matter what you're doing, because if you're looking for a job, you want to be hireable and be able to really lean into what makes you perfect to be doing whatever the thing is. Or if you're building a business or you're selling something, whether it's a product or service, you want to be known as that go-to. So there are examples on those 4 different goal paths throughout, along with a lot of writing exercises, lots of brainstorming. But this book is for anybody embracing change by choice or circumstance, because when you embrace it, you're in a much better position to achieve what you want. And I will add, and at the end, there are resources and worksheets and links. At the end of 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting, there's an appendix at the very end, which is like the shorter than Cliff Notes form of what is the DEB method. If you're reading that and you want to dive deep into it, then go grab a copy of your goal guide, and it will take you through all of the exercises to really hone in on the life you want so you can create it.
Well, the question I was going to ask to that end was, is there an order you recommend people read your 2 books in? Should I read this one first and then read the 52 Secrets, or can they read it the other way around?
You can read it however you want. 52 Secrets is designed to be like inspiration in your pocket.
Yeah.
I have an issue. I am stuck. I need a jolt, a pep talk, or whatever. And then you can go to, again, the section or the tip, read it, because in that book, it's, okay, this is my secret, along with an example and or an anecdote about how the person who shared it uses it or used it to create this life that they wanted. This is if you were laid off, if your business needs a jolt in the arm, if you need to start from scratch or scratch-ish, then definitely pick up your goal guide to help you make that roadmap, that plan, and figure out what you want and make a plan to get it.
Okay, right. We've reached the end of the books, but I ask the guests 2 questions. The first question is, and I used to ask this in a lot more simplistic way, but you maybe see why I ask it in a complicated way. If you met somebody and you had to give them one of the books from this list, what sort of questions would you ask them, and to work out which of the books to give them in the series? So it's not like if you had to pick one of these books, it's like if you met somebody, what would you ask them, and what kind of things would you think about in terms of picking one of these books to give them?
One question that I frequently ask people anyway, well, the second, I'm going to give you 2. But the second one, I will ask anybody in almost any situation, because it really is helpful for relationship development. So usually I will ask, what are you working on? What are you passionate about? And then the second question is there something you need help with? What do you need help with? How can I help you achieve your goals? And if someone says, well, I just got an air fryer or I just got an Instant Pot, what book do I need? They're getting Jeffrey Eisner's Instant Pot books. If I ask them, what are you working on? What do you need? They're like, well, I was just laid off, and the last time I did a job search, it didn't go so well. So I need to reframe my thinking. I will say, okay, grab your goal guide, because the thing that book does is it asks you to really think about what are the things that you love.
Yeah.
And look at your experience, and maybe it's a lateral move you need to do into a different company, doing the same thing, but for a different company or industry. Or maybe it's, and I found this a lot when I talked during the pandemic, is people had a lot of free time and they learned things. Maybe there's a skill that you previously only dabbled in, but that's something that you can lean into for your next position. So what do you need? How can I help elevate you? That's what I like to, whenever I'm in a networking meeting and, we get towards the end and we're chit-chatting, and I will always end with, okay, what are you working on? What can I do for you? And when you are in that giving spirit, which is really the spirit of 52 Secrets, okay, this is what I know. Maybe it will help you. When you're in that giving spirit, first of all, the person's going to tell you, and then they're going to say, okay, how can I help you? Well, I just wrote this book and I would love for you to spread the word, or do you know a podcast it needs to be on, or whatever. But sometimes the help is, I was thinking about trying this career, and if their online persona is not great, they're going to get the LinkedIn book recommendation. If they're having trouble selling themselves, whatever it is, they're going to get the book on selling. The cookbooks, you can never have enough. I'd say just if you want to be cooking, grab one of each. One of each.
Here's another question. As you're already an author and you've just released the book, you might as well get in shot again, 50 Secrets. But
52 Secrets, yeah. A new book, baby.
What is the next book you're working on? Or if you hadn't written a book, it would be like, what would be the book you write? But what is the next book you're going to be writing?
I envision 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting as a series.
Yeah.
So I feel like my vision, my goal for it is to be the next chicken soup for the soul, because I will do 52 secrets about anything. So if you go to 52secretsbook.com, if you go to the contact page, it actually asks you, what is your secret? What has worked for you? So I can start getting ideas for what the next one in the series will be. I believe the world that we live in, we all need a little lift. Yeah. And the way that we do it is by sharing what works for us, but also taking what works for others. And as I say, the secret to success is there is no one secret, only options. You see what works for others, take them for a test drive, and see what to incorporate to uplift your life.
Very briefly, reiterate how people can get in touch with you if they want to, who are watching the show.
Well, I am at the Deb Method everywhere. So you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can learn more about me and my love of goals at thedebmethod.com. And you can learn more about the new book at 50, including the places to get it, which obviously Amazon is the easiest way.
Yeah.
If you go to 52secretsbook.com, and like I said, there's information about upcoming events and ways to submit your secret. And you can also reach out at deb@thedebmethod.com.
And if people are interested in the food side of things, they've got your food. Is that a show or is that an email?
Taste Buds with Deb. So you can subscribe to Gold Chat and Taste Buds with Deb at your favorite podcast platform. And as I mentioned before, you can subscribe to both Gold Chat and Taste Buds. You can subscribe via my YouTube and or where you get your podcasts.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being the guest today. And
thank you for having me.
Thanks to the people watching on Amazon. Thanks for everybody for watching, and thanks so much for being the guest, Deb.
Thank you for having me. Happy reading, everybody.